The first thing I'll say about authenticity, because so many of us are scared to be who we really are, right? Because we fear rejection or isolation or not being included or judgment or all those things. And first of all, just one little tip, and you'll know this so probably way more than I do, Jim. But one thing that's always helped me is like so many studies out there talk about how it's impossible to have a real true connection with another human being if you show up as your representative, if you don't show up as your full authentic self, for better or worse, right? The good parts, the bad parts, the quirky parts, whatever.
I just love the story about QVC, your first time going on QVC. And
Yeah.
because this is the ultimate story of following your heart and following your gut and doing and staying true to yourself. I feel like that's thrown around all the time. Stay true to
Mm,
yourself. Every time I ask someone, what's your best advice? Stay true to yourself. But this
mhm.
exemplifies, this is textbook, stay true to yourself. I would love
Mm.
for you to share that story.
Yeah, I think that we all kind of know or believe these things like, oh, I need to be true to myself, right? But then when it comes to real life and how we show up and how we decide what to do when everything's on the line, that's when it gets really tough to not just like know our values or know what we believe in, but then to actually live them. And I talk a lot in the book about how while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. And I saw that now play out over a decade in the tens of thousands of entrepreneurs I've had the blessing of meeting, and very few ever make it. I think it's how Oprah has made it. Nobody was ever like her or is ever like her. And to reveal all the parts that normally people would hide, that's how we create connection. That's our superpower. And I after 3 years of hearing no from everyone. I mean, I Angie, and every ounce of my being, I kept feeling in my gut like, okay, I created this great product with It Cosmetics. It works for me, and I have hereditary rosacea. Nothing else would work, and I just kept feeling in my gut like I need to not just launch this product, but also show on real women, every age, size, skin challenge, skin tone, like show real people using this and show how it works. And I kept having this vision. When I launched the company, it was even before YouTube was doing this. So no one was doing this. All we saw was these ads on television and commercials where it was usually somebody with the same skin tone. They always were like the same age and flawless skin. And you never saw anybody with, that looked like you and like me. You know what I mean? You just never did. And so I had this vision, oh my gosh, if I can create a product that works and like try to shift culture however I possibly can in the beauty industry of how they define beauty. Like that was my deep, deep mission, right? For
Mm.
every because growing up when I'd see those ads, I always loved them. I always aspired to look like that,
Yeah.
but deep down inside, right, they always made me feel not enough in this weird way. So I was like, oh my gosh, if I can create a company whose mission is so much bigger than me, and I could try to shift culture in the beauty industry and how they define beauty, and change those images for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, and every adult who still does. And so this big vision, and then all of a sudden, for 3 years, everyone's telling me it's not going to work. Everyone's saying no. And when a retailer says no to you, what they're saying is, I don't think that we can make money from you, is
Mhm.
what they're saying. We don't believe in what you're doing or that it will sell or that it will work. And so 3 years of that goes on, including years of hearing no from QVC, and it's a crazy wild story I share in the book of how we eventually got a yes to get one shot on QVC. Now QVC is a live television channel broadcast to 100 million homes, and when you go live, you have this big sales goal each minute that you're live.
Mhm.
And if you're not hitting your sales goal, they pull you off, right? And anyhow, after years of rejection, I got one shot, one yes, big yes, to get one chance live on QVC to sell our concealer. And we were only selling 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely in business. And I learned, Angie, that I would need to hit their sales goal in the 10-minute window. I
Mhm.
would need to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer. And I also learned the deal was going to be consignment, meaning I had to figure out how to make all the product, pay for it, ship it in, and then get my one big shot on air for 10 minutes. And if it didn't sell, it would all come back to me, which means we'd be out of business. Um, so it was a big risk, and we applied for an SBA loan just because we had no money. We had literally no money left. We were down to well under $1,000. So we got 22 banks said no, and the 23rd bank said yes, just to fund the inventory for that one order, for QVC, for that one chance in 10 minutes. So basically, everything was on the line. I flew out to QVC a week before the airing, and I sat in their parking lot in this rental car all alone, and I just like stared at the front of the building, knowing the next time I walked in there, my whole life was going to change, or I would be bankrupt. And here's where the struggle came: is we hired third party consultants who are amazing. They help a lot of people succeed on selling in television or selling their products in stores. And they all told me the same thing. They said, if you want a chance at succeeding, here's what you need to do. You need to go on the air in your 10 minutes, use this type of model. And all the models look like they're 12, and they were all the same skin tone with flawless skin. And I'm like, listen, like, what if I just take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea and show the world how this product works? And what if I put real women of every age and shape and size and skin tone and skin challenge? And I would argue and I say, because if I'm sitting at home watching, how do I know something's going to work for me if I don't see it on someone who looks like me? Like, to me, it was so common sense, and they were mortified. And they here's the thing: they wanted me to win, and they were giving me the best advice they knew how on what they said is the only way people will buy a product from something from they would say these unattainable images of aspiration that no one could possibly look like, but that is what sells product. And I'm like, so it's tough. So I sat in that rental car knowing that everything was on the line, knowing I had one shot. And it's, my gut was telling me one thing, right? And experts were telling me another. And these are the moments that define our lives, is when we learn to hear ourselves, hear our gut, and then make the decision to trust it. And it's not always easy, right? And I sat in that rental car every day for a week, and I just, I prayed, I cried, but I also imagined who that woman was watching on the other end. And I don't know why, but I kept imagining a single mom in Nebraska folding laundry who was like too busy to remember that she mattered and that she's beautiful. And I just kept imagining, like, if she was going to turn on her television for a few seconds, and I was going to be blessed with a few seconds of her time. Like, it came down to this moment where I realized I'd rather have her see me showing women who look like her, calling them beautiful and meaning it, even if she buys nothing. I'd rather do that than sell a ton of product and stand for nothing. And so I knew what I had to do, but it didn't mean it was easy. And I remember walking into the QVC studios, and for that one shot, that 10 minutes. And when we went live, so I remember standing there in the studio, and there's this giant countdown clock on the floor that started at the 10-minute mark. I was sweating so much, and I'm not nervous for television, but it was that everything was on the line, and I was shaking. I remember like hoping my Spanx caught all my sweat, because I was like, I can't be sweating through a dress on national television. I was freaking out. But I remember the clock started, and I remember the moment my bare face before shot came up on national television, and I walked over to all the models that I chose as real women, all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all skin tones, all skin challenges. And I remember there was about a minute left in the presentation, and the host says, the tan shade's almost gone, the deep shade's almost sold out. And I was like, and then I remember at the 10-minute mark, the huge sold out sign came up across the screen. I start crying on national television. I remember they cut, and then they went to like the next item, which is like Dyson vacuum or Vitamix or Apple iPhone or something. And my husband comes rushing through the double doors of the studio, and I'm like, real women have spoken. And I'm like crying, and he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And this is
such
like
a guy.
such a guy. But that one airing, Andy, turns into 5 that year, 101 the next year. Anyways, for 8 years straight, I did 250 live shows a year on QVC, and we built the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. It is right now at this very moment. But I only share that because it was 3 years of them saying no. And so Like no one, whoever's listening and needs to hear this today, no one can tell you how big your dream can be. No one can tell you you're not enough. And when people reject you and they literally look you in the eye and tell you they don't think you're gonna make it, or you're not the right fit, or you're not this enough or that enough, like those are the moments we don't quit, we don't give up. Maybe we cry a little bit, but
Yeah.
those are the moments where we listen to our gut and we stay authentic and we keep going. And
Mhm.
people who do that are the ones who are able to build something that lasts or that matters or that really, makes a contribution to the world. And I believe every one of us has that inside of us, right? And our life comes down to if we listen to our calling or if we listen to our opposition. So, you guys, I just want to share something. Anybody out there feeling like, oh, do I belong? And do I have will I be embraced by this industry I'm in? We all have the same thoughts. And this is going to be a bold statement.
Get them,
but
get them.
what I realized, I could have never sold my company for over $1 billion had I not been odd. Had I ever listened to all the feedback along the way from really well-intentioned experts and retailers about how to conform, about how my packaging needs to be, about how to fit in this beauty space, about what I need to change or alter or create to fit into what's going to sell. How'd I ever listen to that when it didn't feel authentic to who I was? It never would have happened. And here's what I mean by that. And I just want to share this for anyone who needs this today, because this is so powerful. Because if you are doing something authentically to you, by definition, no one else out there can do it the way you do it, right? So by definition, it's novel. It's never been done before. And listen, I went to a beauty space. There's millions of beauty companies, but I stayed authentic and did it a different way. Was told I was odd. Was told your idea is not going to work. And you guys, I started in my living room, and it was 3 years of having this product that I believed in so strongly, that worked for me, but I didn't want to have crazy fancy expensive packaging, because I always felt like, as a consumer, for me, if I bought something that was so fancy, like it was really pretty, I would put it on my counter and I would look at it, but I wouldn't use it. I wanted people to exactly. I wanted people to not be afraid and to use it. And so I was told over and over by a lot of retailers, your packaging is not expensive or fancy enough. And then when I wanted to use real women and people as models, I was told women won't buy makeup unless there's such this aspirational thing of beauty that they can never look like. That's what will sell. And I'm like, that doesn't, like, maybe, just maybe, women are sick and tired of seeing people who don't look like them modeling a product, because how are they going to know it works for them if they don't see somebody that has, anyways. So I would keep going in, and I kept getting told, right? You're not the right fit.
Well, you're bringing your values into your work, which is so key. You're bringing your values into work. You're like, I want to have, models for It Cosmetic who look like regular humans, not like the traditional, waif model. We wanted to have people who, were just joyous and happy, and not like, you really wanted, like, you had people with, I remember looking back at some of your stuff that you did, and it was like, oh, these people have regular human facial expressions. You ever open those magazines and you look at everyone's facial expressions, you're like, that's not even anyway. So
and it's so really Photoshopped. But I used to say to them, like, I'm creating a company that authentically believes every person is beautiful. So why wouldn't I show every person as the models, right? And it was this just constant pushback. And by the way, sometimes it's little things. I remember, I love some good sweats. Like, I'm wearing sweats today. I love some good sweats, and I'll be fancy every once in a while. But in the start, for those of you that haven't heard the story, I sold the company I started in my living room to L'Oreal for over $1 billion. And it was 3 years of meetings with them. And the first time I ever walked into their office, I felt so odd, so out of place. Like, everyone dresses so well. and I was just like, okay, but here's the thing. I didn't change who I was. And I didn't start dressing like everyone at that company. And I didn't, right? And what happened, my whole point in all this, you guys, is by the time L'Oreal bought our company for $1.2 billion, this was after years of meetings, they have the most beautiful portfolio of like 40 companies, 40 different beauty brands. And none of them were doing what we're doing. Like they're all doing their own thing really beautifully, because I stuck to being odd and I didn't conform every time. I thought, oh, well, if I do this, then that retailer will carry our products, or if I change our packaging, then we'll be accepted. Like had I changed everything, they would have never bought our company, because we would have been doing what everyone else is doing. And instead, because we were odd, we brought value to their portfolio. We didn't compete with anyone else in their portfolio. We were odd. We brought a whole new value and a whole new customer base. And
let me give another word for this too, Jamie, because this is like, I really want to, because I want to transfer this from, odd or even authentic, which can be, kind of like, sometimes I know someone watching might think, oh, that's like pop self-help, here they are just being positive about this. Let me share like with some hard truth what that means. Being odd means you bring what is important to you into your day every day. You bring what is important to you into your work. Because what is important to you, that's your values, that's your inclination, that's your vision, that's your unique spirit or voice or inner speaking to, I want to do this, and I want to do it in this unique way that's my way. And when you honor that and you show up and you do that over and over and over, your quote unquote brand, whether that, or who you are, or how you live as a mom, as a team, as a leader, what happens and what manifests is this unique identity that's truly you, because you are living the things that are important to you, and you're bringing what's important to you into every day. And so for those of you who aren't on this track to build $1 billion company, or you're like, oh, I'm not like Brandon, I don't do that stuff, on the internets. Here's what I'm saying. Bring what is important to you into the world every day. And that oddness, that uniqueness, that will manifest itself into what you feel is living a life of personal freedom, doing what is important to you and beautiful to you. And that's where you find fulfillment. Because I always say, fake does not equal fulfillment. Mm-hmm. You can't fake it into fulfillment. You can fake it and get things done. You can fake it and stand out for a minute. Mm-hmm. But over the long term, you'll be miserable because you didn't bring what's important and true to you into your life. Yeah. And so what Jamie had her ultimate success, just knowing her now as a friend and doing this Growth Day morning show together. And we have so much conversation together pretty much on the daily now. It's like she brought what is important to her into her space. She had rosacea. She said, I'm going to solve this rosacea thing. I need that's important to me. She solved her rosacea challenge by concocting cosmetics that are in her house. And that became literally $1 billion empire, y'all. So you just have to go, what's important to me? Let's work on that. Let's solve problems that are important to me. Let's express myself in ways that are true to me. And if you do that year over year over year over year, that's how you build something real.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word unique, because that's such a great word too, right? Versus odd. I'm like, we were odd, but unique. The things you
I'm from Montana. I say weird. I'm weird, right?
You're weird. But and my big thing is, yes, live those. Like you said, yes, bring them into what you're doing, but also don't be scared of them when someone else doesn't get it. Like don't change your uniqueness or your weirdness or your oddities when they're true to you and to your values, just because someone else doesn't get it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing, even though, like, I'll probably talk about this for another 100 years, but rejection sucks and rejection is painful. And it never got, it maybe got a little easier because I've gone through hearing no probably thousands of times in the journey, but it's never fun. But had I ever listened to that you're not enough feedback when it was something that was an authentic, unique oddity of a value I believed in, had I ever changed that, we would have never, ever had the outcome that we did. And it was just such a real life, full circle, good learning that, oh, wow, it was our oddities, our uniqueness, all of that about our company that we stayed true to that ended up really building something of value.
And the first thing I'll say about authenticity, because so many of us are scared to be who we really are, right? because we fear rejection or isolation or not being included or judgment or all those things. And first of all, just one little tip, and you'll know this so probably way more than I do, Jim. But one thing that's always helped me is like so many studies out there talk about how it's impossible to have a real true connection with another human being if you show up as your representative, if you don't show up as your full authentic self, for better or worse, right? The good parts, the bad parts, the quirky parts, whatever. And whether the relationships you want to have are with your partner or your customers or your community on social media, you actually cannot have a fully authentic relationship if you're not showing up as your full authentic self, for better or worse. And so if right now you're listening and you're like, oh, well, I'm showing up kind of as the person I think I need to be, or I'm getting distracted by other people on social media because they're having great success, or their podcast is doing well, or their business, my competitors' businesses are having success by doing this, so I'm going to do that. You are robbing yourself of that actual authentic connection with your own customers, your own community, or your own friends, or your own family. That literally is the only way, from my experience, to build anything that lasts, anything that matters. Like in my journey of now doing over 1,000 live TV shows on QVC, right? I've met thousands of entrepreneurs in the green room, and most of them only last one show, maybe two, and they're gone. And I would like, over the years, I would think, what is that commonality between the people who end up building something? And it's never how smart they are. It's never how skilled they are on television. It's never that. It's the ones that like are the same way in the green room when no one's watching as they are on air. And they're not, none of them are the same. Some are crazy and wild, and some are totally like, whoa. And some are really kind, but the ones that have that congruency, that show up on air and sell their product, whatever it is, whether it's a Dyson vacuum or a personal growth, whatever it is, they're the same, right? Because guess what? The people watching are able to connect because you can't fake authenticity. And I feel like learning that is freedom, because it is so stressful when you feel like you need to show up on social media as something that you're not, because you're trying to build a following and get more likes, or you're showing up in the dating world and you're as your representative, because whatever, it is so stressful. But like, when you realize being authentic is it's the most freeing thing, because you now no longer care if something's working for a competitor in your industry or this or that, because it doesn't matter unless it's truly authentic to who you are. And one quick thing is, like, I used to end up, we built to over 1,000 employees. So I went from not paying myself for 3 years to over 1,000 employees. And they would get so sick of me saying this, but I feel like it was one of the keys to our success. Was they would tell me something a competitor was doing, or a new product launch or whatever, and I would say, listen, our biggest threat to our business is not what the competition's doing. It's the risk of us getting distracted by it and like getting tempted to dilute our own authentic secret sauce. That's it. And it was kind of like staying true to that helped us actually build something that mattered. And listening to that, even sometimes when the experts out there, or in my case, the retailers, were telling me they didn't believe in it. And one more quick thing is just in this process, because you mentioned, the people around you, if they're doubting you, right? Another big tool just to share with everyone listening that helped me is just everybody around you in your circle, whether it's friends, a partner, people you work with, whoever. They're only capable of believing in your dream, whether they realize it or not. They're only capable of really believing in it, usually, if like their own lens they're seeing it through of life experience and limitations has already proven to them it will be successful, right? Like, so many people, even experts or visionaries, like, they would never admit this, but like, if you're doing something new or novel, or maybe it's been done a million times, but you're doing it your own way, it's really hard for anyone else to ever think it's going to be successful because they've never seen it be successful before because it's never been done the way you're going to do it. So keeping that in mind, and Jim, I would have this imaginary volume dial, and everyone listening has this. Okay, imagine you have your control over your own volume dial. I think one of the biggest keys to overcoming self-doubt on your own journey, whether it's to start painting again or to start writing that book or to just freaking go online and make an online dating profile and put yourself out there, right? I think like one of the biggest keys is learning how to control your own volume dial with who you let speak into your life about what.
I love your scrappiness, and one of the things I like to do is just try to learn, analyze any story of greatness, any story of success, and try to determine and put language on what are the unique attributes in this story. And you raised one, Jamie, that I think is more true for you than anybody I know, and should be true for more business and ministry leaders. And so if we look at your story, one is great idea, two is great product, three is great execution, four, you've got tenacity, overcoming obstacles, you've got rejection, you've got good business sense, you've got the ability to scale, you're creating the right culture. So we've got all those things that we typically think about. There's an ingredient that I don't hear often, and that is what you said, and that is authenticity in mission and leadership. And what you have is a very rare authenticity. And the reason I want to drill in on this is because it's not all about systems. It's not all about strategy. It's not all about location. It's not all about ideas. Sometimes you just have to be believable as a leader. And you had a problem, and you had a solution, and then your problem that you were attacking was bigger than just skin issues, but it was actually kind of a culture that maybe would shame people for not being something that someone else is. And that authenticity is one of probably the least talked about, most important tools of great leadership. And in my just humble admiration of your story, I think that's one of the lead lines of the success that I want to highlight and help other leaders see. We say it this way, that, be yourself as a leader, because people would rather follow someone who's real than someone who's right. And you're just that. And I hope that other leaders will see it. When they study you, you write about it a lot in your book. I want to hold it up if anybody's watching, believe it, how to get from underestimated to unstoppable. Just fantastic, New York Times bestselling book with every good reason. You write a lot about kind of that in there, and I want to drill down into something. I think that there's, who knows how many people are listening right now are working in a company and they have resistance. They have an idea and it's getting shot down. They're trying to start a ministry and it's not going well, and they're facing rejection. You said earlier, it's not all glamorous. I would say probably almost all of it's not glamorous. Like, there's very little glamorous, and almost every great story of success is filled with rejection. I was turned down for ordination. So I'm a pastor, and I was rejected for ordination. And almost every story like that has an overcoming rejection. Can you tell us, Jamie, what was one of the greatest points of rejection, and what happened internally that kept you going when so many people would have quit?
I believe when we change our relationship with rejection, we literally can change our whole lives.
Okay, I have to stop you. I'm so sorry, I have to stop you. You have to say that again, and I want to let that sink in, then I want you to keep going. Just say it one more time. I want our listeners to feel that. This is worth the whole time. Say it again, please, and then unpack it for us.
When we change our relationship with rejection, we change our entire lives. We change our teams, we change our business, we change... I believe we can never reach our true calling and our true potential and our true greatness unless we literally learn how to change our relationship with rejection. And when we see it as something that comes with the territory of being a brave one willing to go after your calling, one willing to go after your potential, one willing to bet on yourself and bet on the vision God's put in you, you're a brave one. And I think that when you're going after anything great and anything brave, it comes with rejection. So I've literally in my life, and I still get rejected to this day, to this day, right? And like, it's so funny, but it rolls right off me now, Craig. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I see it as like, yeah, it's like a reminder. Oh, I just got rejected again. Yep, I'm a brave one. I'm going after it. I am not going to get to heaven one day and be like, God, I lived as half as who you made me to be. God, I stepped into a quarter of my greatness. God, I know you put all these big things inside of me and I did some of them. Like, like I keep reminding myself, I want to arrive there and be like, I have nothing left. Be like, I gave it my all. And so I've flipped my mindset into, okay, rejection, boom, boom. I don't hear it anymore as you're not enough, right? I used to always hear rejection as almost like a reminder of something I wish I didn't believe, which is that I'm not enough. And that was a really big thing to get over in my life. And so, part of launching It Cosmetics, right? Long before it was this, we built a team of over 1,000 employees, became the largest, #1 luxury makeup company in the country, in the United States. All these things happen. A lot of people just know that part. But the real journey is a girl who literally, I started believing I wasn't enough. And I tried to enter this beauty industry to change the conversation and help everyone feel like, oh, wait, you are enough. And let's try to shift the conversation around that. But the journey was filled with so many rejections. And, to talk about, I don't even know how I could pick one. There were so many. And here's the thing is so many of the people that rejected me along the way were who I would consider experts, right? And sometimes it's so easy to put experts on this pedestal and be like, well, if they're telling me I don't have what it takes, or they're saying I'm not going to succeed, like it's very hard not to let those words of rejection turn into self-doubt in our own heads. And so on my journey, of sending the product out to all these retailers, and I really believed in it. And two quick rejections that stand out. One was after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rejections from every retailer out there. We got a phone call from a potential investor who's a big private equity company, and they gotten a hold of our product and loved the product and wanted to have a meeting. And I was so excited, Craig, because I thought, oh my gosh, they've taken so many of these unknown brands and made them into huge consumer product companies that we all shop for in grocery stores and know of. And I thought, if they invest, then A, I won't go bankrupt, and B, maybe they can use their leverage to get us into all of these retailers that keep telling me no. And so we did all the meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting. We entered the diligence phase, right, which is when they start looking into all of our financial projections, our future product pipeline. And it came down to the final meeting, and my husband and I flew up for it. And the head guy at the private equity company, he was really kind. His whole team was awesome. And at the end, he says to me, and by the way, this is now after a couple years and hundreds of rejections, right? So we're at that under $1,000 in our bank account, maybe going bankrupt at any moment situation. And we're in person, and he was about 3 feet from me. And he says to me, congratulations. We really believe in your product. It's a great product. But it's a no, we're going to pass on investing in It Cosmetics. And I was just like, devastated, right? And I was like, okay, but I was so used to hearing no at this point. And I said, well, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. I said, can you tell me why? And he got really quiet, and there was a long pause, and he says, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I'm like, yes, please. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And I remember when he said those words, well, first of all, it was like a lifetime of body doubt, self-doubt, like flooded my whole body. And I never actually felt any anger toward him or anything like that. But I remember one moment that I just want to call this out, because I feel like these are the moments, and we all have them. We've all had someone look at us and tell us we're not enough, for whatever version of rejection we've faced. And sometimes it's someone in our family who loves us and just doesn't see our dream. Sometimes it's a partner. Sometimes it's in business. But we've all had these moments. And what I'll never forget, Craig, literally like it was yesterday, is when he was saying those words to my face. He says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I got this feeling deep down in like the pit of my stomach that said he's wrong. Like I felt it so strongly. And I still went out in my car and cried. I still, all those things. And for many years, you know, when I would hear those words, you know how we hear the words sometimes that someone says to us that hurt, I would like imagine myself turning down the volume on them and turning the volume up, and that feeling I had, which I realized is a knowing. It's an intuition. It's a still small voice. It's God telling us, you know, oh, he's telling you no, but I'm giving you a knowing, right? It's that knowing we have inside. And I believe our life comes down to the moments when we trust our knowing over the no's, our knowing over what we can't see in front of us, what looks like, you know, is it going to happen, or is it going to come to pass, or is it, you know what I mean? And by the way, 6 years later, 6 years later, and I'm skipping over so many things, but 6 years later, when L'Oreal bought this little tiny company I started in my living room, for $1.2 billion cash, and it was their largest acquisition in the U.S. and U.S. history for them. They made me the first woman to hold a CEO title in their 100-plus year history of any brand, and it was a whole thing. So it was on the homepage of the Wall Street Journal the day that it happened, online, and that's when I heard from that investor for the first time. And he said, congratulations. I hadn't heard from him in 6 years. And he said, congratulations, I was wrong. Yes. I'm so happy for you.
And you're so much politer than I am, because I would have said to him, and I'll give you 1.2 billion reasons why you're wrong.
I love that so much.
I don't recommend that anyone else says that, but it's just like
so
that,
good.
Yeah, we don't want to rub it in his face.
If you were a brand new entrepreneur starting today, what are the first 3 things you do to kind of build your brand in what might seem like a crowded space?
Yeah, because right now there's no barriers to entry, right? Yeah. So, and that has pluses and minuses. Pluses and minuses. So the pluses are you can get in there for free and you can start right away direct to consumer for free in any area, any space. Yeah. The minuses are it's so crowded, right? Okay, 3 things I would do. I would throw your ego out the window.
That is the best advice.
Right? Completely. Because I have seen so many people not make it because their own ego and the things they choose to spend money on, the things they think the way they think they need to show up on social media, the way that all that kind of stuff. Like at the end of the day, I would throw your ego out the window. I'd be ready to be super scrappy. I talk about so many of the most honestly, they're embarrassing stories, but I just feel like that's how I feel like I had to share them and believe it, because that's how we know, like, oh, I'm not alone sitting in my living room trying to tape my phone up to the thing, not being able to afford my $1 hot dog from Costco. Like, I wanted to share it all, right? Like I talk about using my middle name to be head of PR. Like if this were today, Brian, just to share it. So I couldn't afford to hire anyone for years, right? So I used my middle name, Marie. She got her own email address, marie@itcosmetics.com. And she was head of PR and head of customer service. So like, if this were today, Marie would be like, oh my gosh, Brian Underwood, great news. Our founder is available for an interview. We see you have a Glam Hive panel coming up. Like Marie would pitch you, and Marie got ignored all the time. Marie got rejected.
Poor Marie.
No, she was a hustler though. But I would say no ego. I would say whatever you do, know your truth, know your why beneath the why. Do that work now. I don't know if you caught the beginning of our segment together, or you can go back and watch it later, but I talk about how important it is to know why you're doing, but not just the why that we always hear thought leaders talk about. Know your why. I talk a lot, and I wrote a whole section about this, and believe it, in the book on how to peel back the layers and go deeper. Yeah. Because for me, if I hadn't done that work early on, I wouldn't have made it through the 3 years of rejection, of everyone telling me no, of all the beauty retailers telling me no. So really knowing your why beneath your why. I have so much to say. Another big one is if you are in the beauty space or really any space, protect your IP early on and get your formula ownership early on before the manufacturers care about you and don't want you to go anywhere else and won't give it to you. like early on, do all the unsexy stuff that gets your that gets your foundation in place that you can stand on, from your IP ownership to your trademarks to your formula ownership. Get that stuff in place, because when you try to do it later, when people are actually making money off of you, they do not want to give it to you, and then that creates problems. The last thing I'll say, sorry, I could do like 500 things on this, is just don't ever get distracted by what other people are doing. It is so tempting to do it, but the second you worry about what someone else is doing in your space and you're tempted to dilute who you are, that's when you lose the magic. All the research shows you create a barrier of disconnection between another human being or your own customers. We think we need to show up as our representative. We don't. That's the barrier. It's like, F all that. Show up as you fully are. It's more freeing, it's more fun, but it's also your superpower. How do you bring the joy in the consistency and not have things like social media feel like an obligation or like a job? How do you do that? Because I think when it starts to feel like a job, it's hard to actually want to show up and be. So many people right now in the chat, good morning, everybody, are typing the word consistency, right? They're talking about you growing to 1 million followers on Instagram through consistency. And consistency, if it's joyful, right, is not, it doesn't feel like a job. But if it's like, oh, I got to think of something to say, I got to, and then it kind of like takes the joy out of the moment, right? So how for everyone part of Growth Day who's growing in this area, because I think all of us are growing in this area. I have, you and I both, we have fellow Growth Day coaches with millions and millions of followers. They're still growing in how they show up on social media. But for most people, it's, they don't necessarily want to, but it's now also part of communicating with the world, of getting your business out there, your idea, your story. By the way, authors, a whole nother thing. But Brendan, you had shared this with me early on, and then I experienced it going to publisher meetings for the first time. Your story is one thing. How is your social media file? How is the, right? Like everyone now is saying, okay, this needs to be part of your life no matter where you're at. And so what's your advice for having feelings goals while doing it, to use a big topic, and just for everyone who's working on building it but doesn't want that feeling of like, oh, another obligation?
Well, let me share two things. One, I got two ideas about this. The first one is the pain of consistency, especially in social media. It always comes from two things. The first and primary one is detachment. People feel it's an obligation or a job when they're detached from the meaning of the outcome. And so if it's just, oh, I got to turn on the camera, I got to get a stupid thing, I got to comb my hair, I got to clean up the background, I got to get there and I just got to deliver and I got to do it. If it's that, it sucks. You're detached from the purpose, the meaning, and the outcome. And what happens on social media, this is why tons of my friends never hit 7 figures in either following or revenue, is because they started thinking as an obligation, I got to serve these thousands of people and tens of thousands of people, or even millions of people. And they forgot that one person watching who's like them, or like their brother, their sister, or their mother, or their father, someone who needs them. You got detached from, oh, I'm talking to people. This is like a person. I always tell people, approach social media like it's a phone call, like a one-on-one phone call with somebody, or like FaceTiming with your mom. It's like one person. You are an influencer where I have 2,000 people at my events, right? And I always try to do this activity where I have the first 100 people stand up in the front rows. And I'll say, how many of you ever had only 100 people watch your video, or 100 people like your post, or less than that, and you felt bad about it? And everyone raises their hand, and I say, okay, well, Then I have the first 100 people in the front row stand up. And then I walk out and I point at them and I ask everyone in the audience to look at them and make eye contact with one of them. And I go, this is a person. I pull one person out and go, and I start talking to the person. She has a family. She's got kids. She's struggling to figure this out. She's wanting to transition, has hopes and dreams, but she's insecure. Like, and all of a sudden, like, you're thinking, you're disappointed you only reached 100%, but you reach her. So they got detached from the one-to-one humanness and the meaning and the purpose. That was number one. And the number two thing I will say is this: the randomness will destroy your content creation or consistency. And here's what I mean for everybody watching. And this means across everything in your life, by the way. So don't, for those who are like, I'm not doing social media, listen, please. Randomness kills desire. It really does. We think that, oh, no. Life is in the variety. Not when it comes to consistency over a period of time. Like if it's always a different time that you shoot the video, it's always a random day that you reply to this. It's always a random day you go to the gym. It's always a random time. You won't stay consistent. And worse, because you're not consistent, it's always a last minute hustle and hassle. And it's like, oh, I got to quote, fit this in. And now you got to fit your video in and you're like, this sucks. I hate this. No. You didn't develop a routine where it was just easy for you to glide into that block of time, that hour, and knock it through. So detachment is the enemy mentally and emotionally. And lacking routine, block times in which that's when you do it. That's the day you do it. That's the hour you do it. You hit that consistency, you show up, it becomes more familiar, more easy. You glide in, you glide out, you find flow. You know when you don't find flow? When it's random every day, you got to fit it in on top of email and taking care of the kids and feeding the thing and grabbing no, consistency. So I have blocks of time. That's when I shoot. That filming gets done. That's the time. I scheduled it. That's when it's going to happen. I show up, I glide through. And so I hope that helps.
Yeah, I'm having a real life growth moment actually that I'll share. You remember, so, after years of building It Cosmetics, and hearing no from everybody, I had this gut feeling, Brendan, as you know, that I was like, I know we're meant to be on QVC. And I know, which QVC is a live television channel that's broadcast to 100 million homes. And I just knew that every real person watching, if they could see me live without an ad in a magazine photoshopped or anything like that, if I could show the product live and connect with them live, I knew it was going to be huge. But QVC had said no for years. And when we finally got a shot, which is a crazy story, when we finally got a shot, I risked everything. It's a long story, but we ended up getting five airings that year, 101 the next year. And I spent 8 years of my life doing 250 live shows a year on QVC, right? And something you're saying, because it's reminding me of the journey of every one of us as we start to go out there. This is, as you know, growth day. This is my first week ever of live on Instagram. First week in my life.
You did so good. We figured out audio. We figured out how to schedule it. We got you she's on desktop. She's on her laptop for Facebook, y'all. And then she's also on Instagram Live with her phone. So you have to do this weird setup where you can look at both of them and not be looking over there. So you did a great job. Give her a round of applause. Let's go, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Cheer her on, everybody. Cheer her on.
Patience. Well, and also similar to what you're saying, like I read everyone's comments too. And when every one of you guys watching posts, like I'll repost and the meaning, right? The meaning of why we're showing up for each other to do this together, to all grow together is what makes this feel not like a job, but something we want to do, right? Something that we're blessed to do. So yeah, first week ever live on Instagram. But one thing you just shared, I want to share with everyone and kind of frame it in a different way. Also, as everyone is at different phases of this whole new digital world, right? Some people are already pros at things like social and pros at things like having their business go online and digital marketing and all those things. Other people are dreading it and they're showing up anyway because they feel like they have to. They want to grow. They need to chat. They see where things are going, but they're dreading doing social. They're dreading shifting their business online or or maybe they're a creative person and they don't want to have all the things that now are the expectations are often placed on creative people to now, if they're artists that paint, well, you know what, you need social media and show all your art, and that's how, and galleries are now online. Like there's everything shifting, so everyone's in this space. And something you said is so powerful, and it's connecting this to a memory I have of when I got to this place of 250 live shows a year on QVC, which meant, and by the way, it's 24 hours a day, right? As is social media, 24 hours a day live. And I got to this place where I struggled with feeling the day. I was so burnt out. I knew I needed, and there were times I knew what a blessing it was to be able to walk in that building and get airtime on QVC, because you can sell more in an hour on QVC than you can sell a whole year in department stores.
But sometimes opportunity, and this is so important for everybody. Sometimes the opportunity of your dream still hurts.
Yeah.
The opportunity of your dream still brings dread. You have this opportunity to do all these things, but it doesn't mean you're not tired that day. The kids didn't like burp up all over the place. The dog didn't bite somebody. You're not getting, mean emails or texts. It's like, we think that when we hit the land of our dreams or opportunity, like everything clears out and it's like tra-la-la flow. I'm like, oh no, everything else levels up. So what has to happen in the leveling up of difficulty and opportunity, you have to level up your mindset, your habits, your peace, your wellness practices, so that it doesn't, like, the dread doesn't happen. It's such a huge mental game, and it's also physical, because I know you were so hard on yourself and didn't take care of yourself, and you also had extreme expectations. Jamie used to stand in front of a monitor, these QVC shows, y'all. I think this is the untold story. People don't understand how hard this is. She'd be talking direct to camera like this, right? She's selling IT Cosmetics, her cosmetic line, to millions of households. But right next to her, they have this huge monitor that shows the sales and the engagement. So in real time, she's being judged numerically, plus she's judging herself doing her performance, plus she's got to interact with the whole. It was so hard. It's why you're such a pro. But anyway, I can see how that becomes so, like, it can become debilitating when it's just everyday, random call hours, judgment, blah, blah, blah.
Because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today. And I feel like a lot of people have these reasons they think they're not quite ready to dream big yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big. And to start having that vision, that's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment.
People, I love that. Big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment, and knowing that 100% of success stories you have ever heard, that success story began with somebody going 90 miles an hour and putting the wheels on as they were going and building the thing. They endured years of mess and disorganization and trying to figure out, and doubt and risk of failure on the precipice daily. And you don't get that easy path when you want to do great things. Yeah. It's difficult. Les Brown always said, I love Les Brown. Les has been on our stages. Les is a personal development legend. I hope you know who he is. Les Brown always said, he's like, if you want your life to be easy, do hard things. If you want your life to be hard, do easy things. And it just says, it's like, oh, you have to push, you have to struggle. Here's what I want everyone to know. Thinking big today. This is my message to you, and thinking big. You are clueless to the depths of your capabilities. You have no idea what you are capable of. You have no idea what your full potential is. And I'm not judgment. I don't know either. Like, there's one guy up there. For me, I'm a spiritual person, so God's got me. God knows the immensity of the soul he put into this body, and no one else does, including me. I have no idea. the immensity of the challenges God's got lined up for me 5 years from now, or 10 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you don't know. But what you do know is you're going to arrive and you will be summoned to call your best forth to serve one day. You will be summoned to rise above your own little insecurities and comforts and joys and ask, wow, how can I get more out of myself to be of service in this moment? Whether that is your first 2 years with a new baby, and you're like, my eyes, I haven't slept, you know? Or it's that first 4 years of your startup. It's going to demand so much of you, but you will rise to it. You will be capable. You will learn as you go. So stop all the waiting, get in the game, put the wheels on as you're going, move towards that dream with more rapidness, because you'll figure it out as you go. It won't be perfect. Jamie said, you're so vulnerable. Yet the other day you said to me, I feel like never in my life, Brendan, have I dropped more balls, I think you were saying.
And right now.
Yeah, tell them about that, because you're thinking big, but she's built $1 billion business. And right now, even after having that experience, she feels like this is life, y'all. Anyway, tell them about that.
I think, you know, when I think back to the early days of building It Cosmetics, there were years of I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I was trying to do every job in my living room because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think anytime we're also doing something new or dreaming big and trying to go to new levels, just the newness of all of it is overwhelming, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so, you know, at the end of a 10-year journey with that, building over 1,000 employees and $1 billion company and all that, I knew a lot about the beauty industry and about manufacturing and legal and acquisitions and building a team and leadership and all those things, right? And now, as a first-time author, I actually
a whole new game.
A whole new game. I feel literally I'm back in my living room, not knowing what I don't know, right? And it's a growth, a major season of growth for me. And, you know, you and I, Brendan, talk a lot about just the idea of being a lifelong student. And, you know, I'm proud to be a lifetime student. And I'm honored to learn from everyone in our community right now who's posting in the comments and posting in Facebook and posting in Instagram. I'm part of the Growth Day Morning Show. We learn from each other. I learn from all the other Growth Day coaches. And I'm in a season right now of going, okay, because for the last 5 years, I've been offered book deals because of my story, but I didn't want to have a ghostwriter do it. So I said no for 5 years. I wanted, because I have learned in my life, like, you cannot fake authenticity. And, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book a lot actually is how, you know, authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. And that's in everything, right? And I talk about all the lessons I've learned around that in the book. But then for me to have that book actually truly serve at the highest possible level, I wanted to write every word myself. I knew it had to be authentic. So this has been 2 years, actually, a year and a half, little over a year and a half of growth and of dropping so many balls and
learning new things, messing it up, trying to get into it.
Yeah, like you saw me when I got the first cover in. I was cutting it out and taping it to Jay Shetty's book because it was the right size. Every little thing I'm like trying to figure it out, and because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be right and I want to have no regrets. But yeah, I am dropping balls everywhere in terms of, I mean, last night I was up all night writing web copy, writing because I want it to be authentic to like the heart and soul of how I want to serve. And I'm doing a big launch event, which we'll talk about later. Because it's still top secret, but we're going to tell everyone on Growth Day first. But
she's doing it big. She's going for it. Listen, she decided to write a book. And I want everyone, I know some of you are thinking about writing a book or launching something new. When she said, I'm going to write a book, she said, I want it to be a bestseller. I want it to really impact millions of people. I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to really get it out there. Even though, please listen, she'd never written a book, had no idea how to write a book, and had zero idea how to promote something.
Yeah.
Her confidence in thinking big came from her belief in her ability to figure things out. She's like, I'll figure it out. So your big vision should not be limited by today's skill set or today's competency. Your big vision should be based on your service you want to give, your dream you want to live with your family. Like, and you will develop the skills along the way as you get in motion towards the thing. You don't start the journey perfect. The definition of perfection is to perfect. To perfect requires that you start. You start something, release something, launch something, and you perfect as you go. Perfect is a verb. It is done to something that is out there, that is released, that is built to perfect. And so you don't start perfect, you perfect. And then as soon as you go, oh, okay, we're going to start this Growth Day morning show. We don't know how to plug it into Instagram or Facebook. We don't know how to use an outwork mic, these mics. We don't know what the heck we're doing. Our first 4 days, we were just perfecting how to do that little piece. We still are. I think that's so important. And Jamie, I want to give you credit because sometimes you feel like you're dropping so many balls because you're so good at what you're doing in every other area, but you're also doing awesome and you're getting great momentum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be brave, and I'm trying to, and this, this is something that I think is huge too, is we often talk about when, I have a whole journey of hearing no for years, right? Experts telling me my vision wasn't going to work for It Cosmetics and all those kind of things. But I still believe that it's our own self-doubt that kills more dreams than almost anything else. It's our own kind of limitations that we put on ourselves, or our own reasons we give ourselves why we need to still wait to do something, or we're not quite ready to write the book, or any of those things, right? And I get why, because doing it all and putting ourselves out there is scary. And sometimes it's easier to not dream big, because then we don't have to be afraid of not hitting that mark, or we stay in our comfort zone, right? But I think that to recap what you said in the start of this, which is so good, it's so good, is until we take those chains off we put on ourselves, we don't know how much we're capable of. We don't know the level we're capable of dreaming and serving and giving and creating and ideating and inspiring, right? And leading and all of those things. And I think that, and
the level of discipline you're all capable of. The level of, so Jamie is in what we call a launch window. So for those who are new, Jamie is launching a book called Believe It, and it comes out next month. I hope that you will pre-order on Amazon. It's called Believe It by Kern Lima. Comes out next month. She's in this time we call a launch window. A launch window is when your life becomes very deep work, essentialism, high performance habits. You are doing this thing. A lot of balls are falling all over there because you have this limited amount of time to launch this thing. And until you've been through that several times, you don't know how much you can get done. I'll give you an example of thinking big. This month, if you told me, okay, Brendan, in 1 month, listen to y'all, in 1 month, rebranded the company, onboarded 20 plus people and teams from outsourcing and internal all around, launched a new offering, brought in all our new growth coaches, in other words, found 8 other new promotional partners and friends to serve, built a new software team, building the software, serving all of our customers without missing too many beats, launching a new community platform, launching this show, and somehow enjoying the month. If you told Brendan, 19-year-old Brendan, that was, he'd be like, I don't know how to hire. I don't know what a brand is. I don't know what a company is. What is it? If you told your former self that, or your future self, I should say, you don't know what you're capable of. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me, because feel like I'm putting the wheels on as I'm going. But I said, okay, let's just get in motion. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. It's crunch time. Let's go. Let's move things forward. Move things forward. Move things forward. You will perfect as you go. But no way could I imagine that we could do all of this in a single month until you go for it, guys. You got to go for your dreams. Thinking big means moving big, taking big action, taking daily, you might call it small actions, but those daily small actions compound. You got to get in the game. Some of you, it's so easy to sit it out. and you're still waiting for someone's approval or someone's understanding. It's like, if no one understands, if you feel like no one understands you, you have no one to blame but you. We have to learn. And I don't say that judgmentally, I had to learn to communicate. I sucked at communicating. I felt like I didn't have connection with people because I didn't know how to communicate. Be vulnerable, share emotions, like create human, like good friendships. I didn't know how to do that. So I did, like a lot of you personal growth lovers who read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Anyone read that? Oh my God, changed my life.
Yeah, I need to reread it. I read it like 20 years ago.
So good.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
I did that because I was terrible with people. And so now I communicate to millions of people daily. So if you told that really awkward dude, oh, you're going to talk to millions of people, you didn't believe it. But as you jump into the dream and you get momentum, you start to believe it more. You get more skills, more capabilities. Those capabilities lead to competency. That competency leads to confidence, and you're moving. I don't know.
Yeah. And not only do you talk to millions of people, you train other incredible teams. I know I always bring up Oprah's team on the show, who I know you've trained, but you train so many people how to do it also. So it's like, not only do you do it now, you also are like one of the top people in the world at helping some of the top people in the world do it themselves. So it's pretty remarkable. And one thing I want to share, because I'm reading the comments, a lot of people saying, oh, it's hard to unchain ourselves. It's hard to start. It's hard to start when we don't know if our idea is good enough, or we don't know if our dream is right, and all that kind of thing. And one thing you just said that I just want to call out, because I think it's really important, is that sometimes people do cheer for you after you've made it. And I want to call this out, okay?
Yeah,
because so I've lived through this. I have lived through this, okay? I have so many stories, and that's why. So everyone writing a book, it's like it is the greatest joy to go, oh my gosh, if people knew I went through all this, they would feel less alone. They would feel like they can get through it too, because this is the real stuff that happens. But there were so many people that did not cheer for me until after my company was a success, or after we were splashed in all the magazines, or after. And often when they start cheering for you, then it's in the form of, I always knew that you would make it, or I'm so proud of you. I've been rooting for you from the beginning. You're like, no, you were. But it's okay, right? I think it's or they're like, they're telling people how they know you, and it's wild to watch this. And it's not that they mean harm. Here's what when I've peeled back the layers on this, there's a couple lessons here I want to share with anyone, especially if they're scared to start, if they're scared to take that jump, if they're scared to dream big and call their shot and go for it and all of that. Because what we start to do, I think, as humans, is we share our dreams or our ideas with the people around us. Sometimes we share them in groups. And then sometimes we share them with experts, or with, people in our industry that have had a lot of success or whatever. And then when we don't get the kind of response we're hoping for, right? Then we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to think we're not ready, or we think, oh, you know what? A million other people have done this idea. Like, maybe I shouldn't do it. It's already been done so many other times. So here's the big thing I've learned, okay, is, first of all, as we know, the only way to ever have a human connection is to show up authentically, right? And that can be with your partner, with a friend, with your customers online, with what you're doing, right? With how you're launching your dream. So just to take a step back, if you are doing something authentically, right, your dream. So in my case, there's a million beauty companies out there, and I launched a beauty company. Well, there's millions of them. Someone had already done it. Millions of people had already done it, right? But when you do something authentically, no one can do it the way you're doing it, right? So by definition, what you're doing is novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And here's what I've learned. Other people, typically, even experts, even visionaries, they typically can't imagine something being successful unless subconsciously they've already seen proof that it's already been done and it's already been successful.
Yes.
But because you're doing it authentically to you, it's never been done before. So don't be surprised when the people around you who love you, or the experts you have so much respect for, don't initially give you the reaction to your big dream or your big idea, it's because no one's done it the way you're going to do it. So it's never been done before. It's novel, it's new, right? And most people would never admit this, but unless subconsciously they've seen it that way and they've seen it succeed, they're not going to believe that it will. So,
yeah. Except except people who have done it themselves. And like you and I believe in people. We believe in you guys so much because when you meet people who came from nothing and they built it and they did it, they're the ones who usually are on board. Like, sounds like, go for it. Don't know if it's going to work, but cheer them on, encourage it. Like people who've actually done it are the most encouraging. Yes.
Yeah. And we've gone through the journey of hearing thousands of people not believe in us. And then when you come out of the other side of that, you're like, and you have a whole new perspective, right? But the truth is, I mean, in my own journey, for example, as it pertains to building the company, I also learned years later, the hard way, after crying myself to sleep a lot of nights, after hearing a lot of no's, I learned, oh, wait, most of the beauty retailers, they're amazing and they're great. And they all said no to me for years, but they've also never actually built anything themselves.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, oh, and to your point, that's why I'm so passionate about Growth Day and supporting it however I can, but also this morning show, right? Because it's like when you surround yourself with people that are in that space that share these kind of stories, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it that like Aunt Margie said that she didn't think this was going to be a success, but that's okay. She loves me anyway, and she's never built something like this. So she's seeing it through the best lens she knows how, but I'm not going to let that penetrate me or me calling my shot, me going for my dream, me dreaming big, right? So I want to share that to you this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.